Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts. I'm Dr. Joe Hamlett, and alongside me is Dr. Dave Peltz. How are you doing, sir?
Most excellent there, Dr. Joe. Most excellent.
Well, that's good. We're off to a good start then. All right. So for all of you, our returning viewers or listeners, thanks for tuning in for another episode. And for those first time, thanks for joining us. So as always, me and Dave start off, one introduces and the other uh, picks up the topic. So since I did the introduction, I'm going to hand it off to Dave. And so our topic today is, and this one, I want to challenge you. So I'm giving you an assignment already. So today's topic is look beyond the trees. What does that mean to you, Dave, in reference to personal professional development? Look beyond the trees.
Look beyond the trees. That's a good one, Joe. Initially, I want to try to be funny and say, look through the trees and run out to the beach and jump in the ocean. But yeah, living in the desert Southwest, that's not going to happen. One, not many trees, and two, not much water. So
Right.
I would, for me, when we talk about looking beyond the trees, to me, that's kind of a more of a strategic perspective.
Yep.
When we're in the workplace in our professional lives, sometimes things get so muddied or the force gets so thick that we just can't see through it. There's there is no end. It's just a wall, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
And I think we need to look beyond that wall, look through it, if you will, use some X-ray vision and imagine and use some foresight if we need to see past whatever is in front of us, to see what's on the other side and how we can get there, or what do we need to do to get there? What is it going to take to get over that hurdle or that challenge or that obstacle or that wall? So
Right.
that's what on a professional level, that's what I'm thinking. On a personal level, I'll jump into that one real quick. But to me, that could be like I want to achieve something, or I want to do something, or I want to try something new. I don't know, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane with a parachute, preferably, that works and opens.
Right.
That's the general consensus with that. But looking beyond what's stopping us, and for some, most, I shouldn't say most people, some people have challenges, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, whatever. We're not perfect human beings. And so sometimes folks have challenges, and part of that can be looking beyond that wall. And there's so many wonderful success stories of people that have had challenges in their life, whether it's temporary or permanent, and they've looked past that and not got pulled down by it to achieve great and wonderful things that either they or other people didn't think that they were capable of doing. So when I think of look beyond the trees, I think of kind of like that strategic foresight, if you will, looking out there and zeroing in and saying, that's where I want to be, or that's what I want to do right now. How do
Right.
I get there? What do I need to do, regardless of what's going on around me? Setting all that aside, what do I need to do to look through or beyond those trees, to look at what's out there really that I can achieve?
Right. Well, Dave, yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it too. Is it sometimes appears that it's muddy, that it's a wall in front of us that we can't see, and that's a good reference to look beyond the trees, because a lot of times we can't see because of the forest in front of us. So I think in terms of I think the way you said is having that ability to see beyond that. I think it really starts with opening your mind to the possibilities. When
Oh,
I think of
absolutely.
that,
Yeah.
I think of having that ability to see things that don't exist.
Mhm.
For example or instance, innovation, creativity.
Mhm.
That's where it stems from.
Yeah,
Having
exactly.
having that ability to see beyond those barriers that are in front of you, directly in front of you. And you're right, it is a challenge for a lot of us. A lot of times we get familiar with things, and we're reluctant or hesitant to challenge those norms that we're used to,
Yeah.
that we see in front of us all the time. And so that is a challenge for most of us. I mean, I would agree, most of us. It is,
Mhm.
because even if we think tomorrow, we can't see what's going to happen tomorrow, even. So
Yeah.
having that ability to think beyond, okay, I know I'm going to go to work, um, but is that it?
Mhm.
Am I going to, open my mind to, okay, I go to work, but where else will that lead me? What
Mhm.
other things can I accomplish beyond that? So, it's a lot of the things we've talked about in the past. Just open your mind to the possibilities. Um, Looking ahead, being able to visualize where you want to be, and then taking stock of where you are today, and then trying to figure out how you're going to get there. That's all what this is all about, is that ability to envision something that doesn't exist today, something that,
Yeah.
has to be created, and you being the narrator of that story. That's really
Mhm.
what it comes down to. You figuring out, okay, I know these are some barriers, but how can I get around them? How can I
Mhm.
go over them? Or how can I squeeze through them?
Mhm.
Do I need to lose weight so I can squeeze between the trees? Just that type of mind set to think, what will it take for me to get beyond what's
Mhm.
directly in front of me? And I think that's that's what this is about, looking beyond those trees that are in front of us.
Yeah, I liked what you said about envisioning the possibilities, because that is, I mean, that's powerful, because
Right.
so many things have been achieved and accomplished because of envisioning the possibilities. And there is no path to them because they haven't been created yet.
Right. Right.
Maybe other people have thought about it, but no one's actually attempted to achieve them. And that envisioning the possibilities and working towards this enigma that's out there is fascinating and just exhilarating to me, because when you open your mind to the possibilities, some people are stuck where they are, and
Yep.
I've been stuck, you've been stuck,
Yep.
and it's whether it's a career or a situation, and it's like, how do I get out of this? What can I do to better myself, to go to the next level? I feel like I'm stagnating, or something's just not right. And then you start envisioning the possibilities of what's
Yep.
out there, and it's like almost like, and I think we've used this reference before. It's like looking through the eyes of a child,
Absolutely.
and it's like just taking that moment to pause, close your eyes, clear your mind, and just think of everything that's possible, whether it's not how to do it, but what's possible.
Right.
Just that
Yep.
creativity, like you mentioned, and think of all the possibilities, and then focusing in on one or two and saying, I like those. I'm going to do what I can to get there.
Right. Yep. No, we joked about this, especially early on in the podcast, when we said we don't know what we want to be when we grow up. That's really it. Looking through things with those kids' eyes, that
Mm,
excitement about what it could be, and that's
mhm.
why me and you start talking about these types of things, that I'm up at night, can't wait to
Mhm.
talk about it tomorrow, because that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see things beyond the trees, but then it still comes down to, now how do I get there?
Right.
But that's part of the
That's where
journey
it
that
starts.
we
That's where it
talk
starts.
about.
Yep.
Yeah, again, that's how we get to that next level, that
Hmm.
next thing. Whether, again, we always talk about project teams at work, and you all come up with this idea, but
Hmm.
again, the bureaucracy, all the things that are in place to prevent you from doing that, you all start thinking about, what it looks like. Then now you have all these ideas of how we may be able to accomplish. And then you can start working on those things, start
Hmm.
maybe chipping away. Okay, we tried, that didn't work. Let's see what our other alternative is. And that's how we continue to push forward, move to the next level, whether
Yeah.
again it's a project team or you yourself, like I mentioned earlier, jokingly about squeezing between trees.
Hmm.
If it's a physical um, limitation that you have to get you to a certain level, then maybe you need to change your diet, or
Right.
start weight training, or whatever it is. But that's what it takes, being able to see beyond what your current state is, and again, visualizing or envisioning what it could be.
Yeah.
And again, that's very powerful. And that's why I liken it to a kid, because a kid, right.
All they see is possibility.
Exactly.
That's all they see.
The limitations they see are typically the ones we place on them or society places
Mhm.
on them, and then they start to change the way they see things. But
Yeah.
if we could get back to that kid, like, yeah, just everything is a possibility until it's proven wrong, and
Mhm.
that's you know, again, I like living that way now, just because I don't want to go into it with any preconceived ideas and notions that I can't
Yes, there
accomplish
you
it,
go.
that I can't do it.
Removing the past negative experiences and the
Exactly.
jaded perspectives. And I
Right.
was going to say, it's like it's that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yep.
I was going to say new or younger entrepreneurs, but that's not true. It's just an entrepreneur, because an entrepreneur sees possibility in
Right.
everything.
Yep.
And a good entrepreneur then says, okay, if this is what's possible and this is what I want to do, who do I need to bring in to help me do it?
Right. Yep.
Because we've talked before, it does take a team. You're never doing
Absolutely.
something alone, because you have to have someone to purchase your product or service. So therefore, that's part of your team. That's part of your client base. So whether it's one person or many people, it is a team effort. But that's what I think about that just the limitless possibilities that exist.
Right. Well, you talk about having, you know, so a partner or a friend or someone else, because again, you're kind of in the phase of proving it. So part of that is if you have someone, even if it's not your customer or client, but someone that's helping you bring a different perspective to the
Yeah.
table to say, okay, yeah, I see where you are, but
But yeah.
this could be a limitation. This could
Yeah.
be a
Or this is
restriction that
another
you may want to
possibility or
consider.
another option.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why I referred earlier to the team environment
Yeah,
where you bring that diversity of thought, you bring that, you know, those
absolutely.
different perspectives, and then you start to formulate, okay, what can this look like with things that I hadn't considered before.
Hmm.
And I you know, I think that's the power in teams and more than one person, because of course a lot of us, you know, have a lot of experiences, so we're
Hmm.
basing things that we even think of on our own experiences or past
Hmm.
knowledge. But again, what if we've got other people around us now, they're sharing their experiences,
Yeah.
and but the challenge is that you can't shut each other down. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Even if you had the exact went down the same path or journey, the outcome is going to be different. So,
absolutely. Because it's
so
a new
Eve,
day, it's a new time, it's a
absolutely
new
right.
group,
Yep.
a new
Yep.
moment. And
Different
so
circumstances. So
different
it's
circumstances.
so yeah, just having that again,
Yeah.
going back to opening your mind to the possibilities.
Yeah.
Because even if someone experienced it, got a brick wall placed in front of them, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to face that same brick wall or that
Hmm.
same barrier that stopped them. So
Yeah.
that's why
I like how you
it,
said that, because when we think about this, we do have to go in with a completely open mind,
absolutely.
remove any previous conceived ideas or
Yeah.
experiences that may hinder the progress
And that
of
was exactly what I was
creativity.
thinking, hindering that
Yeah, you just have to
creativity.
just clear that room of everything, all the
Absolutely.
positive, all the negative, and just let it be organic and grow.
Right. Well, and that's what I think of, you know, even when groups get together and start thinking brainstorming. The
Hmm.
idea is, you know, throwing everything on the wall that you can,
Hmm.
and not challenge it or not dismiss it yet.
Yes,
Because again, you may have some legitimate reasons why you hesitate or whatever, but the idea is to throw as many of those things on the wall as you can,
hmm,
and then start to prioritize, start to work on, okay, you're right, that doesn't make sense, that we don't think we can do that, we have these
hmm.
type of limitations. So
And this also gets into, some of our previous discussions where we have to, there's a little bit of critical self-reflection, but also
oh,
that
absolutely.
honesty with yourself,
Yep.
to say, hey, if I'm trying to develop myself personally or professionally or be creative, did I really remove all those barriers
Right.
before I started that process? Did I really get rid of all those preconceived notions and
No, you're right.
experiences and just start with a clean palette, totally
Right.
clean, because
Yep.
that's a challenge in and of itself. because we do have all these life experiences, all these personal experiences that we've gained that make us who we are. And that takes us down a certain area or a certain road, if you will, or roads. It takes us down paved roads instead of dirt roads, let's say.
Right, right.
But we need to be able to say, hey, all roads are available, and all fields and all terrain is acceptable, if you will. To say, hey, this is completely open for negotiation,
Right.
and then start going from there.
No, you're right. I think that is a very important piece, that critical self-reflection, because you're right. You have to be aware of who you are. Yeah, you
Mhm.
have to be and honest with yourself. I think that's the other thing we have to make sure we do, is be honest with who we are, and accepting of who we are, and
Yeah,
sometimes our limitations too. But um, going into it with that understanding,
yeah,
and not being afraid to reveal that to yourself and sometimes to others. But
yeah,
just being honest with yourself is again looking beyond those trees, because
yeah.
you may have those limitations right now because of prior experiences,
Or
prior
the
knowledge,
circumstances that you're in right
or the
now. Yeah,
circumstances. And so not really understanding that or accepting that is gonna immediately put up a brick wall,
yeah,
or flag in some
yeah.
regards, because
And
you're
that
still
and
gonna be
that's and that
hanging
kind of
on
circles
to.
back to that entrepreneurial piece, that just getting excited about it and then doing whatever it takes to get there.
Right,
We've talked about this offline, that high risk, high reward, but it doesn't necessarily have to be high risk. It could be low risk, high reward, but you just have to find out and figure out a way to mitigate those risks so it's palatable to you. And with risk, there is a perception of that. Everyone has their own perception of what risk is, what a high risk and low risk is. So we need to establish that when we're working with a team, what is acceptable, define those things so we can move together freely, if you will, on the same page. And
right.
and that can also be a limit in and of itself, because we do want other pages to be in there, that diversity of thought. So yeah, maybe I'm gonna redact that statement.
We've talked a little bit more about teams, but if we go back to again our own,
Mhm,
looking beyond the trees, again, I go back to what you introduced, is the idea that we have to really do that critical self-reflection.
mhm,
Most of the things we talk about, uh, that has to be done.
mhm,
It has to start with you. You can't manage anything. You can't control anything until you really control yourself, until you
mhm.
manage yourself, you understand yourself. So, being able to look beyond the trees, it really starts with you,
Yeah.
because even though you may agree with someone's vision, it still has to come down to you. Okay, that's their vision. I can, align with it, but is
Mhm,
it really in total alignment? Which I would probably uh, think that it probably wouldn't be, that you wouldn't be
mhm.
totally aligned, lock in step to every nth of the degree.
Right.
So I think you still have to have that, your own ability to see beyond, you know, just that thing that's in front of you. Still have to be
Mhm.
able to add to it. If you're going to go along with that, say someone else's vision or someone else's plan that you both are seeing, you still want to be able to contribute to it
Yeah.
in your way,
Yeah. And
that
you
may
have to
enhance.
recognize, yeah, and you have to recognize within yourself, once you've hit that wall, to be honest with yourself and say, hey, I've hit a wall. I need to stop, pause, and really open my mind up again to and look beyond the trees and see what's really out there. And that can be, sometimes it's a defeatist attitude or a negative or pessimistic attitude, or just submitting to the grind or becoming stagnant. We have to step away from ourselves sometimes to be able to see ourselves better. And that's
Right,
and
right.
I've talked about this before offline, again, so many offline discussions with you, where we can talk to our friends and give them good advice, but we're not really good at taking our own advice. So
You're exactly
we
right.
have to be able to step out and look at Dave, me. I have to step out of me and look at me as if it was someone else, and I have to give them the advice and then follow that advice, and
Yeah.
then step back in and then listen to what I just said to myself
Yeah, and
or
that's
yourself.
Right. And that's really hard for each, a lot of us. You're
Yeah,
right. We are so quick to, pass on information that's going to help other people, but we a lot of times don't take that information that we're
yeah,
providing them to heart and do it
yeah,
for ourselves. And
yeah,
that's really funny. But that is the way it happens a lot of times, that we
yeah.
give this great advice and to assist someone else. And then we really, like you say, we take stock of
Yeah.
where we are and we're like, why am I not paying
Why, yeah,
attention
why
to
am
my
I not
own
doing
advice?
that?
Right. Why am I not doing what I just, suggested for somebody else to do?
Yeah. Why
And,
am I
but it,
not doing
well, and, we mentioned the critical self reflection multiple times, but the idea is, like you said, we may do that critical self reflection for that vision that we have and opened our mind. But you're right. Even if we start going and run into that brick wall again, we don't just say, oh, well, I tried. We go back. We
it?
go
Yeah.
back and do that self reflection again to see,
It may
okay,
have
I
just been a
tried
timing
this.
issue or a
Exactly.
geographic issue or
Exactly.
something
So
like that.
and I think that's the thing that, as a lifelong learner,
Yeah. I was
and
just going
that's
to say a
part of that.
growth issue,
Yeah, to continue to grow, develop, you have to be open to new ideas, new things. And you mentioned it earlier too about being stagnant. If you just are stuck in the same rut or the same way of
Mhm.
seeing things or viewing things, it's going to be very difficult for you to see beyond the trees, because
Yeah.
you're always going to see the same barriers in front of you. You're
Yeah.
always going to relate to those things that have happened in the past. It's not we're saying wipe that off from your memory.
Yeah.
No, it's we talked about the power of thought in one of our previous episodes, and that's really what it is. It's taking those things that you've learned and experienced
Mhm.
and rerouting them,
Yeah.
realigning them,
Realign them,
because
maybe
it
rewrite to your point. And I love when you say rewrite things because
yep,
it is. I mean, it's like writing a paper or a letter or a note or an email and then saying, yeah, maybe I should word that differently, or maybe I can add this in there. You can do
right,
that. Hit the backspace or delete button and rewrite it.
absolutely. Well, I even think, the reference you're making, I even think in terms of, as we're going through our education journey, think about research that you're doing.
Mm,
You're basically going out, finding information that's relative to your coursework or to what
mm,
you're doing. Take those things that apply to you, bring them into your research paper, change it to the way where it fits your writing that you're doing
mhm,
now. It's no different. Taking those experiences that someone else has already proven or disproven.
mhm.
Now you're going to use that in the way you want to align it.
Yeah,
It's the same research paper or work,
yeah,
but now you're changing it to now incorporate your
yeah.
perception or your view of this, and that's really what our journeys are about.
Yeah.
I
And
heard
and
this.
and I would even inject the piece of don't neglect or negate the research that you just some of the just set it aside, because how many
Right.
times have we done research saying, oh well, I can't use that, only later on say, oh, I should have used
Right,
that could,
exactly,
or
right,
oh wait, there is a piece in there that I
right,
can use. So yeah, don't negate it, just set it to the side and revisit it, because you never know when you can use something.
right. And I think I might have said this in one of the previous episodes too. Is I heard someone just recently say, we learn from other people's mistakes and
Yeah.
from other people's information, and
Mhm.
so if we choose not to take, like you said, we may not be able to apply it today, but tomorrow, next week, it may apply. So,
Absolutely.
and I think that goes back to, again, the tools in our toolbox,
Yeah.
just those things that we keep adding to, and then maybe later coming back to it, but to take stock of it. Okay,
That's
is
why I
it
have
just
like
clutter
5,000
now?
screwdrivers. I
Or,
can't throw
right.
one away. I never know when I'm going to use it.
Well, even the stuff that you absorb, that you
Yeah,
read, that you watch, how much of it do you keep in your head? So that
yeah.
is, you have to continue to go
Not all of
back
us
to
have
see.
photographic memories to where it's
Right,
just we can go back 20 years to, a certain article and page and paragraph
right,
and sentence
yeah,
and word and pull that out. So yeah.
right. So yeah,
Mhm.
so it makes sense for us to continue to take stock of those things, so that we are not, keeping clutter in our head from 20 years ago that now is not completely relevant, but
Mhm.
at the same time not disregarding it, but maybe have a mechanism where you can recall it or maybe
Yeah.
use some of those things. Like we've said in the past, or I've said in the past about me being a mechanic.
Mhm.
It is lended itself to me doing so many different things just because of that. Not necessarily the exact how to, but just the tools
The
that I was
transferable tools and
exactly
skills and
that I was
ideas and
able to use
concepts.
to use it in
Yeah.
future applications, and that's
Yeah.
what I always look at, and that's why it really concerns me sometimes when you go up against someone, not necessarily against someone, but you're in front of someone, you're trying to explain those things to them,
Mhm.
and they can't see it. Again, they can't see beyond the
Yeah,
trees.
they can't see beyond the
They're
trees. Yeah.
just seeing what's exactly in
Yeah.
front of
It's
them, their
yeah.
need today, and not opening
Yeah.
their mind to the
They're not
possibilities
there you go.
of
You took the words right out. Took the words
you
right out of
know
my mouth.
of what these things can facilitate down the road.
Mhm.
And again, I think that's so important that we disregard those things that are directly in front of us because they don't align with what we're
Mhm.
trying to accomplish today.
Yeah.
And so
And we have to
that's what
keep
all
in
this
mind with
does.
those steps, it may not work under the present situation, but it
Right.
may take a few other, it may, you may have to add a few steps, and
Right.
then you can use it. And now you've just overcome
Absolutely.
that hurdle. And it might take a little bit
Absolutely.
longer. It might not be a shortcut, but at least you've gotten around it.
Right. You have some of those tools that are in place that can
Mhm.
assist you. And that's why, even me learning what I'm doing today and tomorrow and considering things that I'm going to learn in the future, it's just going to continue to add to my knowledge base, my
Mhm.
understanding, my learning, my continually wanting to grow, to develop. And
Mhm.
and so again, I see a lot beyond the trees and a lot of things I'm faced with because I don't limit myself and I don't want to get to that point again. I mean, again, I years ago I did limit myself
Yeah.
to what's directly in front of me.
Yeah.
But now
And
I take
sometimes we
that
limit
approach.
ourselves by what people have told us we're
Other
limited
people,
to. Like
exactly that,
getting back to the looking through the eyes of a child and
right,
how we were brought up. Sometimes we have to remove some of those perspectives and
right,
attitudes and ideas and philosophies and really just, like we said, clear that palette, clear that page, and just start completely fresh.
right. Well, I just one example. I've in the past I've taken over leadership positions, and
Mhm.
typically the person that's exiting or leaving, they give you their whole summary of the
Mhm.
experiences they've had with certain people, with certain situations,
Yeah.
and that's great information to have to start with. But I wouldn't. Why would I want to limit myself on their
Yeah.
opinion, their experience with that?
Mhm.
Because we said it earlier. It's a new day. It's a new circumstance. It's
Mhm.
so I again welcome those comments, suggestions, and all those things. But at the same time, I still leave it up to me to determine, how I proceed. And again, a lot of times we don't allow for that. We go ahead and accept what other people say or their experiences as, okay, this is what I can expect.
Mhm.
Yeah, great. Keep that in the back of your mind, but at the same time, you really need to experience that on your own and
Mhm.
see beyond those trees that
Yeah.
somebody else left
They
behind.
may be in a completely different forest,
Absolutely.
That's
There.
another way to put it. I mean,
Yep.
they might be in a completely different place, and chances are
Yep.
they probably are because we
Exactly.
like you mentioned so many times before, we each have our own story to tell.
Right.
And
Yep.
so if they're in one forest and you're in another, that can be that may be part of the issue.
Absolutely. You're already misaligned.
Yeah.
So well, I know we're getting late on time, so I'll let you give your final thoughts on looking beyond the trees.
Yeah, I've really loved this one. I'm just going to go back to one of the first things that you alluded to, and that's just keep envisioning the possibilities because
Yep.
they really are limitless. If you really give it a chance, it's just it's just mind-boggling and blowing how many possibilities are out there.
Right.
So yeah.
No, I agree 100%. It again is really, you said it too, about looking at things through a kid's eyes, just that curiosity, that exploration of, wow, I could go, I want to go to the moon. I mean, it's
Mhm.
really, like you said, limitless if we get in that mindset of everything is possible. I'm not saying it's going to come easy, Um,
Thank you for that.
but it can be accomplished. Again, me and Dave here wouldn't be here today as doctors, as educators, as authors, as business owners, any of those things, if we only saw what was right in front of us. We had to have some ability to look beyond the trees and see
Yeah.
what's on the other side, or envision what's on the other side, and hope that it's on the other
Or
side.
imagine what's on the other
Or
side.
exactly, just so many things that spark that idea of it can be,
Yeah.
that there is a possibility. So we'll end with that. Like Dave said, this was actually a very good conversation. I really enjoyed this one. So hopefully, those of you that have been listening or watching this podcast or this episode, we do appreciate it. And hopefully, you gain something from this episode as well. And so, if you are enjoying this, please share with your friends, family, people that may gain something from this experience. Again, me and Dave will continue to do this as long as you want us here. And if you want to reach out to us, our information is in the description. And with that, we just want you to continue being your not so ordinary you.